Grizzlies fans, welcome home. The Grizzlies are back for another game. And you know what? They're probably a little tired. Joining me, who's not tired, I can tell in his face, it's Nick Angstadt. Thank you so much for being on today.
Oh, tired of losing, maybe the Memphis Grizzlies. Seems
Nick,
like they'll come in and be motivated. That's what I think. I don't think they'll be tired. I think they'll be energized and ready to. I think the Mavericks need to watch out for this game. This is like a bizarro like trap game for them, I think.
well, you know what they always say, don't, oh, I forget what the saying is. Something about a tiger when he's down. You know, like the Grizzlies are 0-3. So like they're gonna be desperate. They're gonna be hungry.
Yeah.
Um, the Mavs have not lost. They're 2-0 right now coming into this game. And you don't, I guess from the Mavs side, you don't want this to be, like you said, like a trap game where it's like, hey, they don't have Ja, they don't have Steven, they don't have Brandon. We've got this team 3 times before John Morant is back. You can take this one off. It's not going to be one of those games because the Grizzlies still have a lot of offensive and, more importantly, defensive threats. So let's get into that. This is the first of 4 matchups between these two teams. I want to start on your end with Luka, because he has been playing insane. He's averaging 41 points a game in the first 2 games, obviously, over 11 rebounds, over 8 assists in those 2 games. It seems like the offense is just firing from all cylinders. You've got 3 guys averaging almost 20 points in Luka, Kyrie, Tim Hardaway Jr. The bench, I mean, the last game, the bench had 41 points themselves. What has something just clicked with this Mavs team early on?
What's clicked is Luka's really freaking good. Like he just comes in and there's a ton of questions coming into this season about his thigh. He had that thigh injury at the end of last season, then it carried over to FIBA where it seemed like it was messing with him. It was a thigh strain, and so it was one of those things where like an injury shouldn't have lasted that long, so that was kind of weird. And then he had the calf strain that happened in the practice before the Real Madrid game that they played in the preseason. The Mavericks went on the longest road trip in a preseason that an NBA team has ever gone on, and so you come into the season and you're like, all right, Luka didn't play a ton of the preseason. He was sitting out of games. He was questionable even for the first game to play. And then he plays and just looks amazing. He comes out, he is an amazing, like just a savant in the pick and roll. The way that he has set up already with Derek Lively to like finish some of the plays that they've been going through, like it just gives him so many options to kick out to shooters, to do that. And then what teams will try to do and what the Nets team tried to do, they played small. It's much like the Clippers series from the playoffs a couple years ago. They play small, they switch everything, and they just say, all right, we're not going to double Luka, just beat us. And Luka was like, bet, okay, fine. I'm going to go beat you, and I'm going to like beat you with hitting a ton of threes, which he usually is not super efficient hitting threes, but he hit 9 threes, which is a career high for him. And he's just efficient he's only had 4 turnovers the whole season, like in two games. And so he's been efficient taking care of the ball. He's been efficient hitting shots. He's been efficient getting to the rim and finishing around there. And so it's just been all working for him. And it looks like he's coming into camp and came into the season in good shape. And everything's firing for him at least. And I mean, we could talk about the rest of the team, but at least for him, everything's working really well.
You talk about this Brooklyn team, which was your last game, going small. The Grizzlies have kind of been thrust into playing that small ball now too, just with the lack of uh, depth in that big category, I guess, with big men. Except you're going to come into an environment now that may be small. However, you also have a 7-foot Jaren Jackson Jr., who's a defensive player of the year. We've also added Marcus Smart, who is like a big guard, who is the defensive player of the year from the year before. What threat does that pose on this Mavs offense, just having a team that has been talking about being this defensive team for so long now, having these 2 guys kind of spearhead that?
Yeah, the issue is they don't have anybody to guard Luka. I mean, I'm trying to look through who's going to take him. Like but then who takes Kyrie, right? Like that's the decision you have to make with the Mavericks. I think they probably stick Marcus Smart on Luka because of like you need somebody strong, because Luka will just back you down and just post the hell out of you until he gets what he wants on offense. And so if you do it with a wing like Zaire Williams, who's not really I wouldn't call a big wing, right? Like he's just a little like thinner. And like a thin wing, I guess I would put it that way. He's going to back him down, and so maybe you put Smart on him. Then what do you do with Kyrie? Maybe you put length on him, and maybe that bothers him, and so maybe they go that way. But there's not a ton of depth there to take on Luka, and with the bigs, it'll be interesting because they start Jaren Jackson Jr. and Xavier Tillman, right? Like you start 2 bigs in that way, and the Mavericks have they start Grant Williams, and they have started Maxi Kleber in the first game. They started Derek Lively in the second game, but then they went away from Derek Lively in the second half of the second game because they were going small. So do the Grizzlies go small with Jaren at the 5, and then do the Mavericks go away from a Derek Lively at center and go back to the Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, like smaller, switchier type lineup? And I'm really interested to see if Jason Kidd decides to go that direction instead of staying big, keeping with Derek Lively, and seeing what he can do against that lineup.
Speaking of some of those bigs, Derek Lively, Grant Williams, Derek Jones Jr., Dwight Powell, these guys, they're different types of bigs than Jaren is. And I'm talking Jaren offensively now because he moves so well for a big man. Like he can get going from beyond the arc, and then he loves getting downhill. He's not really a back to the basket guy. Personally, I'm saying from our side, I think it's a big Jaren night because of that matchup. What do you see as a good matchup to watch going into this one? Who do you think is going to have a big game?
Yeah, this will be a good Jaren Jackson Jr. game. He's different than the Mavericks bigs in that he's a dynamic offensive threat. The Mavericks bigs are basically, if you count Grant Williams as a big, he plays the 4 for them. Like he'll take all the threes that you give him, and he'll get a bunch of wide open threes this season. He'll take all of them. And then every once in a while, he'll put the ball on the deck, and he's hit like 2 jumpers in the first 2 games. And we haven't really seen a ton of Grant Williams attack a closeout and then stop and pop and try and hit a shot, but he's shown that a little bit. And so that's Grant Williams. It's not super versatile, but he'll do a couple of things. And then there's the Mavs centers in Derek Lively, Dwight Powell, and then Rashawn Holmes if he gets any time.
Like
and
classic bigs.
They're all just the classic, I'm going to roll to the rim, I'm going to catch a lob, and other than that, I'm going to do some dribble handoff stuff, and that's kind of it, right? Like that's that's my job on offense, and that's what the Mavericks want them to do. And so I think the matchup of if the Grizzlies stay big and it's Tillman and Jaren Jackson Jr., does Grant Williams get that assignment? Probably on Jaren Jackson. And then how does he handle that? Grant has done really well at defending bigger guys. He's known for guarding Giannis, known for guarding Embiid. And so what does he do against Jaren Jackson Jr.? I'm interested to see that. Or do they go smaller, and then all of a sudden Derek Lively's taking Jaren Jackson Jr.? And then how does he handle that? Because we haven't seen Derek Lively defend a guy like that. We've seen him defend Victor Wembanyama a little bit, and that was just a whole different animal where he's 7'4" and taking a 3 over the top of your head. Like you just have no shot to contest it. And so it's all new stuff for Derek Lively, and I'm interested to see if he gets that matchup at all this game.
All right. I usually end with like name a cool matchup to watch. I'm going to switch it up with you. I'm going to end with this question. I want you to fill in the blank. You have to take Luka out of it. He cannot be part of your answer, okay?
At all? I can't say his name at all?
Yeah, his name's gone from your vocabulary.
Well, I can't do my show anymore.
Yeah, sorry. Call your boss.
I'm done. I'm ruined.
If the Mavs do blank well, they will leave FedEx Forum with a win.
It's the same about every game for the Mavericks this season. If they defend well, if their defense is all predicated on rotations, switching, it's dependent on everybody getting to the right spot, containing, and they have to try and limit some of the mid-range stuff. So I'm looking at Desmond Bane. Can they limit him from really going off? Can they limit him from that? And then the Mavericks allowed more stuff at the basket and at the rim than they did last year. Can they deter more of that too? So it's, can they communicate? Can they make sure that everybody's in rotation? Like a lot of their defensive problems have been, some of it's personnel because they play some smaller guys than some of the big wings the Mavs have played so far. And then some of it is just communication and just not being in the right spot and mistakes and not rotating correctly and that kind of stuff. They have to be able to do that right. So if they can defend, then they'll come out with a win, because I don't know that the Grizzlies can score enough points to keep up with the Mavericks if the Mavericks are holding up their end of the bargain on the defensive end.
Okay, and that was going to be my key for the Grizzlies. Like, obviously, as a defensive-minded team, you want them to play great defense, and that's what they should be doing anyway. I think today for the Grizzlies, if Jaren and Dez can both have good games, they've kind of been like taking games, back and forth. If they can both get going today, which you need them to do, I think they have a good shot at taking their first win of the season, handing the Mavs their last, their first, sorry. Thank you for coming on today. I'm excited for today's game. I hope you are too. So thank you.
Anytime.
Grizzlies fans, this one tips off at 7 p.m. Finally, no more 6 p.m. tips for now. 7 p.m. and you can watch it on Valley Sports Southeast.